this speech. Self-compassion. So I want to ask a couple of questions ahead. If your partner would talk to yourself like you would talk to you like you talk to yourself, do you think you still would be in a relationship? Or do you feel truly good about yourself? Can you maintain your self-esteem in moments when you perceive weakness or failure? Or can you see yourself positively without putting someone else down so you can look better in comparison? So if your answer is no to any of those questions, I would call for self-compassion. Because the common denominator of all that is self-judgment. The antidote to self-judgment is self-compassion. Self-compassion is basically extending compassion to yourself. It's extending compassion to myself. In instances when I feel inadequate, I feel like I failed, or just general suffering. I have personal experiences of the lack of self-compassion every day. It's like I feel unworthy, I feel not good enough, I feel like I'm messy. Happens all the time. I had only very few experiences that really stuck out in my life where I experienced self-compassion and as a result of it, self-love. One of them was, it was about 11 years ago. I had released a lot of anger in a therapy group, and afterwards I went to a hot tub out in nature. I was floating there, and it was like a spontaneous experience, which was very unfamiliar. It was like, I liked myself. And as the experience went on, I had an overwhelming experience of self-love. And since it was so unfamiliar to me, I played with it. I was like, okay, so now if I'm disfigured, if I lose a limb, does anything change? And so I kept chopping off pieces of myself, and nothing changed. That sense of overwhelming self-love, nothing changed. It was amazing because it was seemingly not bound to my physical structure. So those are my personal experiences. And that gave me like a glimpse of like, I want more of that in my life. I'm getting so sick and tired of beating down on myself. Some people think that self-compassion is like self-indulgence. It's like selfishness. I think self-hatred is in some way socially sanctioned a lot in this country. But the question is, am I really making myself better by beating up all the time on myself? Because it makes me feel inadequate and really insecure. And what also happens is that I take my frustration and my insecurity out on other people. Mostly the people I love and the people that are close to me, like my kids, my partner. I'm even more than that. Lacking self-compassion, I'm not owning up to things. It's harder for me to take responsibility because I know if I tell the truth, you know, the self-hatred that follows. So there's a researcher, Kristen Neff. She spent pretty much all her academic career researching self-compassion. And so I want to talk about the benefits of self-compassion. She talks about coping and resilience. There is research like with war veterans, people who have like an inner ally instead of an inner enemy. They're able to cope much better with PTSD trauma, for example. If I learn self-compassion, it tends to be linked to a better immune system, which makes sense because less stress tends to be boosting the immune system. Also, I'm more likely to take personal responsibility, as I said. If I'm not as afraid of failing, I'm able to take more personal responsibility. And also, the research shows that people who are self-compassionate with themselves, they're more self-motivated because they're not as afraid of failure. So, just to sum it up, self-compassion helps to be motivated. It helps take responsibility. It's not self-indulgent, it's not selfish. It also leads to better relationships and to happiness in general. And I felt inspired to finish up with a poem, which is really dear to my heart. It's from a collection of poems that poet David White put together, and it's called Poetry of Self-Compassion. The author is Derek Walcott, and he says, "The time will come when, with elation, you will greet yourself arriving at your own door, in your own mirror. And each will smile at the other's welcome and say, 'Sit, eat, give wine, give bread, give back your heart to itself, to the stranger who has loved you all your life, whom you ignored, for another, the stranger who knows you by heart. Take down the love letters from the bookshelf, the photographs, the desperate notes. Peel your own image from the mirror. Sit, feast on your life.'" With that, thank you.